another interview for our JNR Author Spotlight series. My name is Hilary Maruzak. I'm the social media director here at Journal of Neuroscience Research. And I'm very excited to introduce Dr. Connor Haggerty, who is one of our excellent social media interns who will be conducting our trainee spotlight interview today.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so today we're highlighting an exciting paper published in JNR's November 2021 issue entitled Maternal Fetal Transmission, THC, and its Metabolites Following Inhalation and Injection During Pregnancy in Rats. So we've invited the first author trainee, Samantha Baglot, to come and talk to us about this paper. Samantha is a PhD candidate in neuroscience at Hotchkiss Brain Institute and Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute at the University of Calgary, where she works with Dr. Matt Hill. Okay, so tell us the most exciting thing about your paper.
Yeah, so I think kind of one of the most exciting things is also kind of a simple thing, which is cool, is just that we don't really, prior to the paper, know how much cannabis actually crosses the placenta during exposure when someone is pregnant. And so it's easy to look at that in an animal model. So we got to kind of examine how much cannabis crosses from the mom's blood through the placenta and into fetal brain. And it's about 30% in an inhalation model, which is really applicable to know for human studies. And then we also kind of examined the difference between inhalation models and injection models, which are two common animal models. And it's really important just to know the difference in order to kind of translate research to human studies and be able to figure out kind of what is applicable and what is important to consider when you're like discussing your results. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So what are the overarching goals you have for your research in general? What are you interested in?
Yeah, so I started my master's degree before coming to Calgary at UBC, and there I studied prenatal alcohol exposure, and now I'm studying prenatal cannabis exposure. So kind of the general theme of my interests tends to be how stress, drugs, and other exposures during pregnancy affect development of the brain and subsequent behavior in the offspring. Here at the University of Calgary doing my PhD, we're specifically interested in the cannabis exposure during pregnancy and kind of its effects on the endocannabinoid system, which is obviously the system cannabis binds to. So that's kind of an interesting one to look at. And I'm also pretty interested in the immune system. So that's kind of the overarching goals.
Great. So what studies are you currently working on, or what are you planning to do? So where are you in your PhD and where are you going from here?
Yeah, so I currently am in the middle of running quite a big study during pregnancy in rats. And this is kind of twofold. I previously did a study where we took some fetal measurements, and now we're taking some postnatal measurements. And so I'll look at effects on the endocannabinoid system. We can look at like levels of endocannabinoids. We can look at gene expression related to the endocannabinoid system, and we can even potentially look at some receptor levels. And then for the postnatal measurements, we're also really interested in the interaction between prenatal cannabis exposure and an early immune challenge. So we're giving the rats lipopolysaccharide, which basically just makes them mount an immune response. And then we can kind of look at whether our THC exposed animals have a different immune response to this challenge than animals not exposed to THC. And then we let them grow up and look at some cool behaviors. I'm really interested in social behavior. It's a really commonly linked behavior to the endocannabinoid system as well as the immune system. And it's also just kind of adorable, honestly, to like score social behavior and social play in the rats. And we're interested in how the amygdala responds to those play behaviors. And then at even older animals, because we measure play in adolescence, and even in even older animals, we'll look at some emotional or like anxiety related behaviors in the animals as they get closer to adulthood. We're also doing a couple of cool collaborations. We're looking at the effects on the mom's microbiome with another lab. And then we're also looking at some MRI data, which will be really cool to get as well.
That's really nice. I saw at a conference recently well, last year I think it was a whole symposium on endocannabinoids and autism models in rats. So that whole social behavior and endocannabinoids is a really nice topic.
And development, the endocannabinoid system seems to be involved in literally like every facet of developing brains. So it's not really a huge surprise that potentially exposure during pregnancy can have an effect. So
yeah, really nice. Okay, so last question. Tell us a bit about yourself and what are your career goals?
Yeah, so I don't know. I always say research fell into my lap. I definitely didn't do an undergrad thinking that I would do research. I actually did a Bachelor of Arts in psychology. I thought I would be a counselor or something like that. And then I was like, research is really cool. I did an honors degree just to get the research experience and really loved it. So I did a master's degree and now I'm doing a PhD, just forever in school. I think we can all us researchers feel like students for a really long time. But I really like research. So I kind of had that fall into my lap. Ultimately, I'm not entirely sure what career I'm interested in, but I am. I think one thing I really love about my project is the translatability between like animal models and human conditions or diseases. And I'm particularly interested in just making kind of basic science research more just applicable and more understandable, more digestible to the average kind of person that isn't going to sit and read an entire research paper. I think it's really important research on things like prenatal cannabis exposure that we give people all the information so they can make an informed decision about using cannabis during pregnancy. And if that happens to be a bit of a harm reduction approach of like, we know lower doses are better, or we know that a CBD heavy dose is better, than potentially, we can kind of approach things from a harm reduction standpoint using science. So that's something I'm particularly interested in, and whether I try to become a supervisor or a primary investigator that does animal research and maybe also collaborates with human researchers or does both could be pretty interesting. But I also really like science communication, just kind of trying to make science a little bit more digestible for the general public. Because I mean, I read papers sometimes and don't necessarily know what the paper is trying to get across. So I think we could do a better job of that as scientists. But
yeah, definitely ones with translational properties as well. I think it's good to see, at least myself who comes from the human side, it's nice to see how that research can be translated into human research. And I think it's a particularly interesting topic, considering that it's the use of cannabis is legal in Canada, and at least Chicago, where I am now, it's legal in the state of Illinois. So yeah, it's
I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes legalized in a lot of countries over the next couple decades even. So it's an important question to just kind of know, even at basic levels, like what it's doing, so that we can just have all the information and make like some informed public policies around that. I mean, we try to do it for alcohol, so it makes sense to also do it for cannabis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam, and keep up the wonderful work. Congratulations again on this exciting publication. It's very foundational, as you said, in so many different ways. So we're very much looking forward to seeing what you do next. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to do the interview.
Thank you very much.